So, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are watching from. This is Life and Relationship Realities with Tolu Alabi. And before we start today, I just want to apologize for last week. Well, there was an issue with Facebook and it affected everything. So we couldn't have the program last week. So today I just want to talk about something personal today. So we're not treating topic on life and relationship realities today. I really want to talk about me. On Sunday, I said something to my boys and I said, well, this week is going to be all about mommy. It's all about Pastor Tolu's life at 50 years, and that's my life, up to this month, up to this minute, and up to Friday, by God's grace, when I'll officially be 50 years old. And I just want to talk about my life and my relationship. Lately, I've been dealing with issues with people, with life, with relationship. And one of the things that just makes me wonder how life is number one, the Bible says something in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. That means that it said there is no temptation that has seized you except that which is common to man. That means there is nothing that you're going through that someone has not gone through before. It said, but God is faithful. It will not allow you to be tempted more than you can bear, but that even in the temptation, He will provide a way of escape. Even in that temptation, even in that trial. I want to say, if I summarize my life, from the time that I knew myself to this moment, if I'm to use one word for my life, really, I would just use, well, not one word, I would do two. If I'm to use two words, the two words that I would say about my life, the summary of my life will be God's faithfulness. God's faithfulness. And that means that my life, I wouldn't be here today if not because of God. Seriously. I wouldn't be here. I've gone through things that seems even terminal. Sicknesses that seems terminal, but God has seen me through it all, different kind of situation. So I'm gonna start from when I started to know myself, as Tolu growing up. That would be I remember some things when I was between 2 and 3 years. I remember then I was going to preschool, about 3 years, I think. I was going to preschool at Omolewa School. And one of the things that I remember was I had this female teacher. I can describe her, but I don't want to describe her right now. And I didn't know what tribe she was or if there was anything called tribe. But was it 3 or 4 years? About it was preschool. And then I remember my grandmom, they'll send a driver to take us to school, myself and some of my cousins. And if there is no driver or the driver refused to show up that morning, then they will charter a taxi and get someone from the house to go with us. And I remember almost every day, like when they get me to school, I wouldn't want to draw from the car, and then I would start running. I must have been 3, 4. That was the first time, like, I can say, oh, I remember anything when I was still little. And then I would start running after the car, after the taxi, and then those things, those in elementary, like 4 to 6 grade. Some of them will come, the guys especially will come and just carry me up, and take me to the class. Today, I don't know why I didn't want to go to school, but well, maybe school is not fun after all, but it's important to go to school. So eventually, that was it. I was going to a very good school then, but that was the only thing I really kind of remember in my school year. And then apart from what I remember in my preschool year, I went to Omolewa Nursery and Primary School in Ibadan at that particular time. And then eventually I moved from there. I had to go to a military school in Nevada. I don't know how this happened or what happened, why I had to be moved and so on like that. But I was moved to the school, and the school wasn't as funny as the school that I was coming from. I mean, the school I was coming from was private school, and this was not a private school. It's a government but military, so it's in between the government and private school, so to say. And then I have people that I grew up with. I have wonderful brothers. They're my cousins, but we're family, so they're my brothers. So, if you want to put it in English word, you say cousin, but the truth is they are my brothers. And I had one Kunde was a sickle cell, and which some things happened eventually, but I had this other one. Babatunde is late night, will have been 50 in August, this last August, 2 months ago. It will have been 50. Babatunde Cotton is going to be with the Lord now, but his wife and the children are still fine. So that's a good thing. Thing with my That was the thing with my brother, my brothers anyway. So eventually, one significant thing again when I was growing up was I was always afraid. I was afraid of darkness. I was afraid of horror movies and so on. I remember there was a particular series that was done then, um, and I was so afraid. I was so afraid of that series, because there was a Dracula movie that we had watched, was very scary. And then in the night, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I would be so scared. And I remember one day, the whole family, I grew up in a very large family, so a lot of mischievous things, but fun and laughter and everything. And so in the night, somebody said, "Oh, Tolu, pick something out there from the door." And I went in, and immediately they locked the door. And we had just watched one of those very terrible movies. God forgive those of my sisters. I see them today. We're close, but I was really, they could hear me screaming. I was banging at the door as though something was going to come get me because of the things I watched on the movie. And up till today, I try to avoid watching those kind of movies anyway, because whatever you sleep with, you're probably going to dream about. So that was it. Then another significant thing when I was really a child was the fact that God started showing me things that were beyond my age. That was when I was 5 years, going to 6. That was when, for the first time, I started seeing angels, like these two angels. And it's so, not so funny, but it's just amazing that even till the last time that God showed me revelation about angels, there were still these two angels. And now that I'm talking, I wish I'd know the name, of the angels, but they've always just been in my revelation, in warning me about certain things. I just keep saying, like, each one on this side. And also, that was the thing for me growing up. My grandmother brought me up. I've shared my story several times. I lost my mom when I was 1 year, 2 months, and I was the only child. My father, my mom, I don't know exactly what happened. I still don't know at 50. Wow. But they separated. I don't want to say divorce. I don't know. But my father was never in my picture till today. I've never even seen a picture. I've made attempt to try to reach him, but all the attempt is not worked, so far, but I'm moving on, and I have God as my father, which is most important, and I'm grateful to God for that. But it's not like that easy, like I've said, because some people you may be watching or know somebody that is an orphan, and you're saying, "Oh yeah, Pastor Tolu, I moved on in life. If you've been through things like this, so you should move on." I want to say something. It's not just that easy to move on. There are things that are going to come from that is going to stay with you for the rest of your life, even when you stay 80 years, 100 years on earth. People may not understand it. People may never know it. But the effect of those things sometimes stay, no matter how little. And so you have to continuously fight it. And I want to say to somebody, if you're there and you have unfortunate past, don't sit on it and get into self-pity, because I did that for a long time, and it never got me anywhere. And so you shouldn't sit down on self-pity. It does not help. It destroys your life the more. So if somebody is watching, if you're watching, can you just make a comment? I really appreciate like you make a comment. I want to know. Thank you. So one of the other things, so I started seeing those angels, and then like I said, my father had never been in the picture, and my mom was being there. Thank you for saying comment, writing comment. I appreciate it. So my mother has never been. She was there till I was 1 year, 2 months. The last picture of my mom, which I have today, was when I was 1 year old, when I was celebrating my first year birthday. I was with my grandmother then, and my mom carried me, took pictures. That's the last picture I have, because she died almost 2 months, after that birthday. And so, what does that mean for me? Oh, my sister is here. Mommy Dewale, Anthony is here. Another person, Phila is there. Thank you. One of the things for me, that means my grandmother raising me. I had the best grandmother, and I had the best upbringing anybody could have. I don't know if I would have had this upbringing if my mother was there, because my grandmother, she was a woman of character. She was a godly woman. She was a compassionate woman, very kind, hardworking. I learned a lot. People tell my children today, oh, you should be glad that your mother is raising you. She's the kind of woman. And I got all of those from my grandmother. She was very kind. She was very good. She was disciplined. She was anything you could wish for. And I'm so privileged, late Chief Mrs. Aro Sholanke, that she brought me up. And my mom's sister too, Major A.R.Y. Sholanke, was a mother. She became my mom. She was my mom's only sister. So she became my mom. Both of them are late now. And I still have a mom, Mrs. Fola Shade Sholanke. She lives in Ibadan, in Oyo State, Nigeria. That's my mom now. And I'm so grateful to God for her life, for her prayers for me, for everything. I want to say something. If you've lost someone in life, appreciate other people that God has brought into your life. Sometimes some people don't have like a father, but God has brought a father to you. Sometimes your mom is not really there the way your mom should be there, but God has given you a spiritual mother, a spiritual father, or even a neighbor that has become a father to you, an uncle, an aunt that has been parent to you. You should learn to appreciate that. Asking God, why me? Shouldn't be. I asked God several years. Since I was 5 to 6, God has been speaking to me. And till this moment, God has never answered that question. Why me? Why did you? Because the truth is that being the only child, even though I was raised with my grandmother, but I had to live at different places at different times for different reasons. And I had a lot of issues that I faced then. I faced sexual abuse when I was still in my elementary school. I couldn't tell my grandmother and every other thing. And I went through a lot of physical abuse. I went through a lot of verbal abuse. I went through a lot of, because sometimes when you're just there and you're an orphan, you become vulnerable. You become vulnerable, and anybody can do things that they feel that they want to do to you. And so if you're watching, you've gone through issues, and when you were growing up, and people have done things that they shouldn't have done to you. I know it hurts. For me, I went through pain for a very long time. I mean a very long time, like years and years. And that affected my relationship. Let me quickly say here, my family, the family I grew up with, we were so much, my grandmother's grandchildren, we were all living with my grandmother. The home was, there was so much laughter. If you grow up where I grew up, you wouldn't even be looking for another home. There was so much laughter, there was so much joy, there was so much, and we were okay financially. I mean, everything seems perfect. But what was the problem with me? One of my problem was not because my mom died and my father was not there. That was a problem, but that wasn't the main thing. The main thing for me that I couldn't figure out till I actually grew up, got married, and started having children was the fact that I didn't know what happened. Nobody was willing to say what happened. How did my mother died? Nobody was willing to say what happened with my dad. I mean, if I'm 50 and I still cannot figure that point out, that was my pain then. Nobody. And I tried to ask. Oh my goodness, when I tried to ask, it wasn't a good experience. I mean, I don't want to describe what I faced, just asking what happened to my father, because I now became like an ingrate. I wasn't grateful for the family I have now and everything. But that wasn't the thing. I just wanted to know. And then I had to go through a lot. There are so many times when, I mean, there are a lot of things that happen that I don't really like feel okay to share on the social media. But there are a lot of things that happened to me that shouldn't have happened. And at a point, I lost every self-esteem. And sometimes when they ask me to bring a cup of water, I'm bringing the cup of water like I'm carrying water like this, and my hand is shaking, and I'm spilling water because of fear, because of intimidation, because of all kind of things. And so those things played a large role in my relationship. The God aspect also played a large role in my relationship. So those two things are major things that played a huge role in my relationship. The fact my low self-esteem, my insecurities because of the things that I've been through, because I was being shut down several times, because of the abuse I've gone through. So that brought down my low self-esteem. And the second one that impacted my relationship was my faith in God. Let me quickly say that my grandmother was a woman of faith. So we grew up, we went to Methodist Church in Albany in Ibadan. And that was really fantastic. Like we were in the choir. Those were also places for me that I go to that helps me be myself, laugh if I want to laugh, and everything like that. And I'm going to start from my faith. My grandmother knew God so much. She believed God, and both of us, I was there till she died, and so on. And both of us connected a lot in the spirit. Like when God is revealing things to me, I can talk to my grandmother. She understood then, and even she will tell me what God is saying to her. So that relationship was good. And then my faith, because I could hear God, it helped me a lot. When I was going through the things I was going through, God was the father that I know. I didn't have a biological father, but I had a dad. I had a father. My mom's immediate senior brother is going to be with the Lord today. It was my father. So I had that, but I didn't have that close relationship with him as my father. I could talk to him, or I felt like, no, I didn't have that close relationship because he was always not even available in Ibadan, where I grew up. He had to go to different places. So the only person really, apart from my grandmother, really like that I had, and my other mom, was God. The God factor played a huge role in my life, because anytime that I feel sad, I just always look for a quiet place. And then I will hear God talking to me. He will always tell me about the future. He will always tell me about the beautiful future, what my life was going to be, how my life was going to affect other people. But then I didn't see there was nothing to say that there was anything future. Because by the time I got into high school, that's secondary school, I went to St. Anne's School, Ibadan. Wow, that's one of the great school. I went to St. Anne's School in Ibadan. But while even in the school, by then, other factors had started happening in my home that made my life really unbearable. Many of it my grandmother didn't know. I purposely didn't tell her. And the one that she knew, she stood for me. And so that was happening at home. And then when I got to school, I didn't know how to let go of all my pain, my heart. I'll fight in school, I'll do all kind of things. I wanted the principal to expel me. But it just happened that they never expelled me. I wouldn't go to classes. I'll be all over around the kitchen, around places that could be. I didn't want to study. I didn't want to leave. By the time I was in my Form 3, that was like you say, that was not high school. You say like middle of your school, because we did 5 years in secondary school then. By the time I was in Form 3, I was desperately searching for how to commit suicide. And I tried 2 times then, and it didn't work. The second time that I tried, actually, the first time I was going to do something, I'd plan and so on, but when I was going to do it, I didn't have the courage to do it, to pull through. The second time I was going to use a knife, I held the knife and I was like, oh, is it going to be my chest or my tummy? Which one is going to be faster? And while I was thinking about that, the Holy Spirit started speaking. I started hearing God like loud. I was in the kitchen, like loud, and God told me, God said, if you know what I want to do with your life in the future, you will not do what you're about to do. And of course, I dropped the knife. I was the only one in the house, and I was leaning on the cabinet. We had this cabinet. Then I was leaning on the cabinet. I went straight down. I started crying, and I was asking God. I was not even asking for the future. I just wanted to be happy. Let me say something in between that. I was also a sickly child at some point. I didn't know that it was rheumatism that I had, because I had it. I no longer have it now, to the glory of God. Those are part of the spiritual miracles that God did for me. And so I was always feeling pain. All my bones will hurt a lot. Anywhere bones are, my joint especially, I'll start feeling so much pain. If I do a little walk, I'll start feeling so much pain and so on. At a point, even people in the house thought I was always faking the thing, because when they say go walk, everybody will be walking or everybody is washing, and then I'll come up to say I'm sick. I didn't understand what was happening to me then. It was later that I realized that because of the rheumatism, when I put my hand in water, it will hurt. So when everybody is washing and I'm washing, I'll get into crisis. And then so everybody was like, oh, she doesn't want to wash and all of that. Even though, yeah, there were a few times when I actually didn't want to walk, and I actually kind of faked that I wasn't feeling well. So, but most of the time, it was because I was sick. And then sometimes I could braid somebody's hair right now, and the person will go to the home, maybe their neighbor, our neighbor, maybe, and the person is coming back almost immediately, and then they said, oh, Tolu is in the hospital, and the person will be wondering what, and so I was always in the hospital. And then something happened. I think I was in a Form 4 thereabout. I was in the hospital. My grandmother had come at Odobo Hospital in Ibadan. It was a military hospital then. And there was this doctor, is Dr. Mohammed. I still remember him. And it was a very kind doctor. Anytime they take me there, we always like, oh, hello, how are you? And so on. So this particular day, and there was even a day I was discharged, and people at home didn't remember. It was the one that actually took me, home. And then because I was always in the hospital, so you won't blame people for not remembering to come pick me when I was discharged. And so this particular day, I was really sick. I still can't remember what happened for me to get to the hospital, but I was almost dying kind of in the house. And then people had to rush, call neighbor. They took me to the hospital, and I was almost unconscious at some point. And then my grandmother came back from the motherless home where she had gone, and then she was told that I was in the hospital. And of course, like her, she didn't even get home. The driver brought her straight. And I remember that day when she came, I was half asleep, but at some point I opened my eyes, but I saw that she was coming. I don't know why I closed my eyes. Up to today, I don't know. But I closed my eyes, and the doctor came around. I was talking to my grandmother, and I was listening to every conversation. My grandmother actually thought I was sleeping, and he told my grandmother, and he said, Tolu cannot live more than 30 years. He said, anything you want her to do before she turned 30, please let her do it. Let her achieve it. Let her be that. He said, because she's not going to make it more than 30. And I remember my grandmother, this was a long time ago. I remember my grandmother said something. My grandmother said, the God that was with her since her mother left, the God that has kept her, I believe that God will keep her. The doctor started saying, okay, like it was like, okay, respecting my grandmother, but that was a medical standpoint. And today I give God glory that I got to the 30 years. A year after I got married, I still have all my children. So I didn't have my children before my 30th year. And I had my children after the 30th year. And today I celebrated 40th, 10 years ago. My friend, Mrs. Nife Ote, a very wonderful woman, she organized a surprise party for me. Of course, she got all people on board with her. Oh my goodness, I was well celebrated. I mean, it was a big hall, a huge party for all the ministry people in Jos, all our ministry. I mean, it was just so wonderful. She did that beautiful. My family, my sister in Lagos also got involved. They contributed. My husband, everybody contributed, and she organized that party. That was amazing for me. And to the glory of God, this Friday again, it's going to be 50. So will I say that medical people don't know what they're doing? No. He was talking from medical standpoint. I have sons that are medical doctors. I have daughters that are medical doctors, and I appreciate them greatly. God is using the medical realm, the science realm, to bring miracles. Miracles is not only when you lay hand. I believe in miracle. I minister miracles. God used my life. God used me to minister miracle to people, and then people are healed. But that means I lay hands on people and people get healed by the power of God, of course. But science is true. They can give you medication. God has healed me without science before, and God has healed me several other times too with science, with medications and so on. So one shouldn't say, oh, because I'm believing God. If God said don't use the medicine, fine. But if God is not saying the Rema word to you on that, please see your doctor, do the right thing. They are wonderful people. But God was just going to show that He's God. He's beyond science, He's beyond human, He's beyond anything that we can comprehend. So that was the thing. So the Tolu that they said could not be more than 30 years medically. God has shown Himself to be God. So God's faithfulness is what I call this my 50th year birthday. I'm just a product of the faithfulness of God. So growing up, So the God factor has been there. I remember at some point too, when it's raining, nature just draw me close to God. That's why whenever I want to go for retreat, I want to go to a place where I can have garden, I can see trees, I can. Where I live as a lot of trees, it's uncountable trees where I live. I love nature because nature draws me to God. I'm looking in front of my outside right now. I can see trees. I can see, I feel I'm tempted to show, and I'm going to show. If you look at that side, can you see all the trees there? Can you see the trees? That's where I live. Okay, so we're back. I didn't plan to do that, but I'm glad I did. So so whenever I feel troubled, I'll sometimes go outside after I've cried, and I'll usually be asking my mom, why did you leave me? Why did you die? Why did you not take me with you? Why do you allow me to suffer the things that I'm suffering and so on? But after that, I realized that, yeah, my mom is gone. She can't come back. My dad is gone. I don't know if he was going to come back, so, but I'll sit under the tree or somewhere, and I'll start hearing the voice of God, and I'll be speaking back to God. And some of my senior ones then got concerned and thought that I was demon possessed and whatever it was. And I was taken for a deliverance one day, and the people in the deliverance was like, oh, confess, confess, confess. And I was confessing of some things, food that I would steal or something kind of those trivial things. And they said, no, confess, what tree did you go for meetings and all kind of those things. So I ever had that experience for 1 hour. They were interrogating, they were calling Jesus, they were telling me, and it's so funny because why? And they kept me in a room, and they said I was going to stay in that room until I confessed what group, have I sucked people's blood, I mean, all of those things. It was so funny because right there where I was, like the usual thing, at the time, I talked to God about anything. So even there, I was talking to God, and God talked back to me that day. And when those people came, they were still doing, and I was like, is this not the God that is talking to me? Why are you not hearing God? For God to speak to you. So, but eventually they let me go, and that was great. So, but I was always talking to God, and that's one thing that I want to say to you. There is no human being that can make life better for you. There is no human being that can help your life. It's only God. I've seen that over. I have wonderful sisters today. I have wonderful brothers. I have wonderful friends. They are very good. I have daughters that are exceptional. I have sons in the Lord that are exceptional. But even at that, God is always greater. Greater than anyone you can ever imagine. I've seen that in my life. His mercy, His grace. So talking about the relationship, what happened with my low self-esteem at that particular time. My low self-esteem meant, number one, I couldn't confront to say my view about anything. I remember there was a particular place where I'd gone to live. I was given admission to study library science. That wasn't what I wanted to study, but I could not open my mouth to say, this is not what I want to study. The people that got, the family people that got that for me, they were appearing to me, they didn't force me. They wanted to help, but that wasn't what I wanted. And I didn't have the courage and the boldness to say, thank you, sir, thank you, ma, but this is not what I want to do. I wanted to study mass communication. After I was not dying, then I said, okay, I wanted to be a media person. I wanted to speak because I knew my strength was, one of my strengths was speaking. And I wanted to make the most of that, go read news, work with media. So I wanted to do that. And I remember my cousin that is a daughter to them. She's late now. She's one of the people that I love to anything. I don't want to mention her name, but she was just so wonderful. And she went and told the parent and said, Tolu doesn't want to do this. So they said, okay, we're going to help. Let her get to Lagos and she's able to go to where she wants to do. And that was what I did, but I didn't have the courage. And then in the midst of that, I got into relationships. So I finished my secondary school at 1989. That's like high school. And I met this young man. In secondary school, a lot of people were asking me for a relationship, but I didn't want for two things. Number one, I didn't even know whether I was going to be alive or not. So what is the going into relationship? I didn't even want the kind of man with my kind of father. I didn't want that. Then the second thing was because also I wanted to honor God. So I said I was not going to mess up myself. I was going to get into a relationship, get to this guy, we'll love ourselves, I'll marry him. I didn't want to do anything again at that point. By that time, I was not so much into the mass communication. That was later. So all I wanted to just marry, take care of my husband, take care of my children, and then my husband would be well, take care of the family. That was what I wanted to do, more like a housewife kind of a thing. They say, watch what you say because you never know, it can happen at some point. But that was what I said I was going to have. And I met this guy. One of the things that I love, my major core value in life is integrity. I love truth. When I can't, if someone is not telling me the truth, I won't be able to trust them. And if I can't trust them, I can't stay with them. And so when I met this guy, the first thing that attracted me was the truth. I met him in his uncle's house. My friend was dating somebody in the family, so we went for their party and everything. And I met this guy. I mean, he was handsome, obviously, tall, good. I mean, he was good looking. And he told me something. He said, this big house, this beautiful house. He said, before you decide if you want to date me, he said, this house does not belong to my dad. He said, this is my uncle. I call him my dad. He's been a father to me. He said, but my biological dad is in Lagos. He has many wives, many children, and I came from a very poor family. He said, I just want you to know so that you don't think I'm from this family. Oh my goodness, that caught me. That was the thing that caught me, and I was like, oh, this is the guy I was going to go out with. And I went out with him for 4 or 5 years. But even in that relationship, God warned me, and I saw, eventually there was a revelation. I saw the same two angels that I'd always seen since I was 5 years old. I saw them in a love garden. One was here, one was there. I was going to go in with him. And one of them said, be careful. Know this person's family. No issues with him before you go into this place with him. But of course, physically, I went in, the relationship was abusive. I wanted to break out from the relationship, but one of the things that made me not break out early from that abusive relationship, even though there was plenty of love, he was loving. When you say someone loves another person, this guy, it was just in love. It's somebody that they say, oh, somebody needs your kidney. He will have given it before he even think about it. It really cared for me. And the issue of the abuse is something I'm not going to talk about today because there were spiritual issues to it. And that's where some people, your marriages, your relationship, things are happening and it looks physical, but some of them have spiritual connotation to it because eventually, after I broke off from the relationship, I don't regret that the relationship was broken till date, but after I broke up the relationship, there was a confession of the things that happened in that relationship. So this guy loved me. I mean, my grandmother loved me so much. I never doubted that. But there was this opposite attraction with this guy. And he would do anything. He would do anything for me till the last day of the relationship. I mean, anything. I never felt that before, like somebody that's so care for you, doesn't want anything to hurt you, you ask me why they abuse. So we'll get to that another time because his issue with the abuse, he'll slap and then it will be like something God opened in his heart. and he will start begging, and he will start going on the floor, prostrating and begging and all of those things. But eventually, the reason why I didn't go, because God told me that wasn't the thing for me. And so, but the thing is, I went into that relationship and I still couldn't speak up for myself, even though he started helping me, to gain confidence and so on like that. But that was a relationship, and that was what I needed at that point. Before I left secondary school, I used to say something. I would say, oh, I used to have a dream. And when I sit down most time, I'll think about that dream. My school was big, and then it had a big space before the main gate. And then I'll be looking at the gate most times, and I'll be like, oh, one day my father is going to come through that gate, and I will see him and know that this is my father, and he will start running towards me, and I'll run towards him, and he will hug me and pick me up and turn me around. I was always having that dream, always, not sleep dream. Like I was always imagining that that was going to happen. Well, till I finished school, till today, that never happened. But I had a God, the God that picked me, the God that lifts me up, and the God that is still turning me around till today. And I want to say to you, Jehovah is not just God to me, is my Father, is the person that I've known as my father, is the one that I've known as my confidant, is the one that I talk to about issues, about every issue in my life. I talk to him like I would a biological father. And that's a relationship I have with God till today. Like when I'm not happy, I can tell him I'm not happy. When I feel disappointed, I can tell him I feel like he's disappointed me. When I'm confused, I can tell him I'm confused. That's the kind of relationship that I have with God. So that is not the relationship of a pastor to a God. No, it's a relationship of a father to a daughter, because that's who God is to me personally. And so that has helped me in my life, because he's able to talk to me at every instance, on every issue, almost on every issue, So that was the thing. So that brought me to, after the relationship got broken, I went into another relationship. I was not dealt with my low self-esteem. But even with the first relationship, I didn't want to have sex before marriage. That was the value that I wanted. But he wanted something else. He wanted sex in the marriage, in the relationship. And also because I wanted to hold on to him, I had to give in. And so in that 1989, I got pregnant. And that was going to be the first of the many pregnancies that I had and had to abort. Unfortunately, I don't feel proud about it. Every day I think about it, I don't feel proud. But at the same time, I'm not weighed down with guilt. No. I've made my peace with God, and I'm peace with God. And that's why I'm able to help a lot of young single mothers today to say that you don't have to go through that route. You can have your baby and somebody will be here to help you. And so that was the first pregnancy, and many of that in those relationships. Did I go through many relationships? Not really. I didn't have so many relationships like, oh, dating these, and all of that. No, I know the relationship I've been through, but I did things that I didn't want to do because I needed to succumb to what they wanted for me to enjoy the love, the affection, and the attention that I needed. And I want to say something to someone out there. You don't have to do it. I realized this later in my life. You don't have to do it. The scripture, one of the very scripture that turned my life around was Jeremiah 29 verse 11. It said, for I know the plans that I have towards you, says the Lord. Plan of good and not evil. Plan to give you a hope and a future. It does not matter what you have been through. It does not matter what has happened to you. What matters is that God brought you here. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5 said, it said, before I knew thee, before I knew, I formed thee, I knew thee, I formed you in your mother's womb. I ordained you. He was telling Jeremiah and you, he said, I ordained you for a purpose. I ordained you as a prophet to the nation. For Jeremiah, God ordained you as a doctor. God ordained you as a school teacher. God ordained you as an artist. God ordained you as a pastor. God ordained you for whoever you're going to be. So it's not about your parents. It's not about my father and my mother not being there, whatever their issue was. It's about me. But what that did for me, it made me to think about family. To say that I'm gonna do the best for my children as much as I can do. I'm not gonna allow them go through the things that I went through, and God is helping. It's not because I have all the abilities and all the strength and all the manpower to do that, but the mercy of God speaks for me. And today I have lovely family. I have my sisters, I have my brother here in Colorado. I have another brother. He's going to be celebrating. Tomorrow is going to be 50th. I want to give a shout to Wale Sholanke. It's going to be Dada Wale Sholanke. He lives in Colorado and it's going to be 50 tomorrow. Happy birthday. So we're going to be doing a little bit of dance tomorrow, and then the main party is Sunday, and I'm going to be celebrating mine on a Friday, and he's going to be celebrating his on Sunday. And so today I have such family. I have my sister Auntie Buki in Colorado. I have Auntie Nika in Colorado. I have my brother Diola Sholanke in Colorado, in Dallas, in Colorado. You know, I have wonderful people. And then I have my beautiful sister in Nigeria, Sister Fumi Adedibu. I have my brother in Canada, Goke Sholanke. I have my brother in UK, Wale Sholanke. I have another brother in Nigeria, Baratunde Sholanke. I have Kurdish. I have family. I'm not that alone person. Now I'm surrounded. I'm still talking about, and then today God blessed me with children. I have children all over, not just biological, 3 boys. I have children, wonderful children that are in Miami, that are in Canada right now. One of my daughter just got into Canada. She's going to be possessing the place. You know, I have my daughter in Alabama, in Pennsylvania. I have my son and daughter in Maryland. I have them all over the place, in Nigeria, in Lagos, in Jos, in Abuja, in different states. I have a daughter in Germany. I have a son in Ukraine. I mean, just all over the place. All over. I can't begin to mention names because they're just numerous. And God is made my 50th a beautiful one. We have a ministry, we have Jos Center, we have Lagos Center, we have Abuja Center. The Lagos Center is coming up. You know, God has done me so well. You know, I look at my life, I was being called bastard regularly because I didn't know my father. People said a lot of terrible things to me growing up. A very close family that I respected so much, you know, will see me and one day said, oh, he said, Tolu can never amount to anything. She's a useless girl. I mean, these are people that close that I look up to. For somebody that you look up to as a father said that to you, that day I couldn't sleep. I was called in front of about two people that are supposed to like be a parent to me. And I was called, and this person said, oh, Tolu cannot amount to anything. She's so useless. Then I'd not gone into, I was about 18 years old that time. And they said, oh, even the way she walks, when she's walking, you see the way she walks, she's not walking straight. It shows that. And they called me, and they had a big living room, and they said, walk from this place to that place. I mean, the humiliation of that day was, I felt like the ground should open up. And I started walking, and my legs were shaking. My leg, the humiliation. Can you see? Can you see? She can't even walk. She can't, And today I'm so grateful to God, because I'm not just walking in the front of two people. I've walked in front of kings. I've had to meet kings in the course of ministry. I've had to meet governor. I've had to meet senator that stood up for me. So it doesn't matter what you're going through. Where God is taking you to is very important. And I want to say something to you. Don't keep bitterness. Someone that hurt you today may be the person that God is going to use to move you to the next level in your life. I've seen people in ministry that deceive, I won't use the word deceive in ministry, but betrayed my trust in them in ministry. I've invested in people that turn around to want to do something terrible. But in all of this, I've learned to forgive. And today, they are amazing. So don't give up on people because someone hurt you today. Don't keep bitterness. If you're struggling with bitterness, let God help you, because bitterness is going to stop you from moving forward. I've seen things in my life. I've been through pain in my life, even in my marriage. But I've learned to say, let it go. Don't hold on to things. Don't hold on to even material things, even good things. I've seen people that God have blessed and they hold on to material possession as if there's not going to be. No, let it go. Be a blessing to people. Be a blessing to someone out there. Today I'm having party, and God is using sons and daughters to help to organize this, to help to get things. I didn't know that they were going to do. I remember several years ago in the city of Jos, when I was still ministering to young people and everything, and somebody called me and he said, Pastor Lu, these young people, that you are wasting your time with them. They don't even want to listen. They want to do whatever they want to do anyway. Leave them. However their life turn out is their fault. Don't waste. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your resources on these people that are going to be so ungrateful. But I thank God that I listened to the voice of God. The person was concerned. So it wasn't as if the person was saying something wrong. The person was concerned for me. But I thank God that I listened to the voice of God. Because those young people today, they are now like what the Bible says about David. The Bible said the strong men of David. They are the people that God are using in my life as strong people, supporting in every way. And today I have children and I have grandchildren. And my latest one is from Miami. And I'm going to see him soon. I'm looking forward to seeing this, my amazing grandson that we waited for. So I'm so grateful to God. And I want to say to you, God has plans for your life. His plan is beautiful. It's going to take you to a beautiful future. It may not look like that then. I didn't see it. I remember at some point in my life, when I see someone is dead and they're carrying the casket and so on, I'll be saying terrible things to God. I said, why did you kill this person? See how the whole family is crying. I said, why don't you kill me? Instead, if you kill me, nobody's going to cry over me. I said, so why didn't you do that? There was a time because the Job's wife said to him, he said, curse God and die. I did that so that God could strike me in anger. For his mercy and faithfulness is ever beyond what we can see. He loved me in my pain, in my mistakes, in my sin, in everything. He loved me. And that's who God is to you. God is not partial. He loves you, who you are. He loves you. If you're doing something wrong, what you need to do, like Jesus said to that woman that was caught in adultery, he said, no one has condemned you, neither am I condemning you. He said, but go and sin no more. At every point in my life, when I'm doing something wrong, God, the Holy Spirit come to tell me, no, this is not. And I repent and I ask God to forgive me and I move on from it. So move on. What have I learned all together? To say that this life can come with challenges. This life can come with pain that you don't understand. But in all, when you surrender yourself to God and you're a person of truth, things will work in your favor eventually. So I want to appreciate next week. I'm going to be continuing to just talk about those lessons that have been learned. I want to say to you that there is a future, there is a hope. Whatever you're controlling now, maybe you have millions of dollars. I pray God is going to increase you in every way, take you to the place where you have never dreamed you would be. Perfect all things that concerns you. If you're sick, God is going to bring healing into your life. Maybe you've lost someone lately and you're so much in pain and so on. The comfort of God is going to be for you. But I want to say something to you. The God that we serve is Jehovah, is the miracle working God, is the one that can transform a destiny, is the one that can bring hope in a hopeless situation. God will work wonders for you. And I want to thank, if you live in Colorado, oh no, I'm not inviting everybody. It's a limited party, but I just want to say that I will appreciate on Friday if you can wake up and say a word of prayer for me. I really will appreciate that. Just pray for me. I'm trusting God for greater strength. I'm trusting God for more open doors in ministry and so on. I'm trusting God to raise more partners for us to be able to reach out to more people and be a blessing. And I want to say thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Bye for now.